This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for Tuesday, April 5th. Belleville, Ontario, Canada. After an exhausting show this morning, which started at 6 again. My wife got a brand new iPhone a few weeks ago, and she got with that 3 months of Apple Plus TV.
Yes.
So now we are able to see things like CODA, which just won the Academy Awards.
So are you going to watch CODA?
On the weekend, yeah. So we've slotted that into our extremely busy social lifestyle. But we started watching the morning show.
Yes.
Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon.
Anything like our morning show?
No. And
Okay.
that's and I want to tie it into something I know you want to talk about today. And that is on if we had a television morning show, it would only be 2 hours. And we would have a literal staff of hundreds of people who do everything that you and I do. They have people do for them. And it's only a 2-hour show, including being picked up by drivers.
Oh, wow.
They get up at 3:30,
Oh.
the same time we get up. They have drivers. And you can
You
say,
get up
well,
at 3:30?
it's fictional. But this is based on the Today Show.
Yes.
Do you have a driver? I don't have a driver.
No, I don't get up at 3:30 was my point.
I get up at 3:30. That's when my alarm gets up. So it made me laugh. They get up at 3:30.
But yes, I wondered that because I've heard other actual morning shows say that they've been driven into work. And I think, oh, that's when
have
you
their
know
own.
you've made it.
I guess. So they get picked up. They have each performer on staff
Guest,
has like
performer,
like
like host?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has their own major producer and co-producers who come up with the segments that they talk about, and they just read off a teleprompter. And they make millions.
How do we get that job?
Are they more talented than us? No doubt, because they're doing it and we're not. But watching the show and seeing how stressed they are pulling it together, you're reading a teleprompter. You're not responsible with coming up with 3 or 4 hours of
Performing.
content every day. I just laughed at it's like, wow.
That is a show I would like to watch.
But it's a very good show,
reason.
the morning show.
And
But
you-
it is
you
very
said
good.
that, yeah.
It's strong. It unpacks a lot of stuff. It's the Me Too movement. Steve
Yeah.
Carell plays almost sort
Who
of
I
the Matt Lauer
love.
character type of thing based on. It's
Really?
like go because of allegations. And I'm only 4 episodes in and already it's like, wow.
Well,
They're
it's
not
on my
pulling
list.
a lot of punches. Yeah, it's good.
It is on my list
But
of
it
things
does.
to watch.
It does because people always say, like, how do you guys come up with stuff to talk about? And
Some
I
days
always,
are easier than others.
I would say it's a lot easier than you think because it's sort of real life. What are people talking about? We reflect that in our community.
We try
from
to, yep.
different things in sports. There was the NCAA last night. And the Masters are coming up this week. Men and women who love golf. This is a big week for us in Canada, so that's easy to talk about. We talked about the OMHA and hockey wrapping
That was
up.
yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday is a lot of so we find, but some days, and you found that this morning.
I had a tough day today. Not going to laugh. That's why I
It's
said
a-
some days are easier than others because you almost, I don't want to say become numb, but there are days where just nothing jumps out at you. Nothing intrigues you. And of course, things are going on. There's lots of things going on. There's constantly news happening and events going on and people talking. And you try to, as you just said, tap into what people are talking about and what is the most relevant thing today
Right.
to discuss. But
Yeah.
today I just found just one of those days for me. Just found it
Well, I wouldn't have known that because
interesting. You know what the highlight of this morning was for me? And you're going to laugh. The best part of our show this morning, and it wasn't even on air. That's the thing. You guys all missed out on it. Was when we were coming up with our throwback. That to me was the best part of my morning.
when we did that this morning.
Yeah, all the songs we weren't going to play
Right.
for
based
throwback,
on the theme.
based
Yep.
on our theme. And then because honestly, I can't say I'm overly enthusiastic about even the song I'm going to end up playing. I was more excited about the songs we weren't going to play because you have come up with a wonderful montage and it will be a bit tomorrow so you can listen in of the songs that didn't make the cut.
Right.
With
We're-
our theme
we're
this
not
week.
using these
We
songs.
are not using these songs.
The
and they're
following
all
songs,
so great.
The following songs fit the criteria. Not going to use
Not
them
going to use them.
on tomorrow's show.
And that was my favorite part of the day.
And yeah, you
Of our
laughed.
show.
We tried to go on and have a professional part of the show.
And
after
I
that.
did. Well, that was the text to speech part that got me laughing. And then that brings up the whole unprofessional side. The unprofessionalism shown by myself this morning. But yeah, it was just one of those days where again, things are going on. There's still stuff in Ukraine. There's still Will Smith. There's still like all these headlines jumping out at you, and you tried to weed through to see what the most relevant is, but it just kind of nothing really
What I
grabbed me.
found really refreshing is being gone the 2 days last week, and I used the Will Smith, Chris Rock story because it is ubiquitous everywhere.
Yep.
To not having been immersed in it for a few days
It is nice to get away from
is
that.
great. And people are like, well, then just don't talk about it. Well,
You can't.
you can't be in the media and refuse to talk about things that everybody's talking about.
There are certain things, if everybody's talking about
Yeah.
it, then you almost have a responsibility. You have to acknowledge it.
Right.
You don't have to go on ad nausea about it, but you have to acknowledge it. at
How
least.
interesting would Jimmy Hollywood be if he said, I'm never going to talk about anything that everybody's talking about in Hollywood. I'm only going to talk about stuff that's not interesting. Like after a while, it's like, why? What would
Doesn't
be the
he
point?
do that some days?
What if we only played songs nobody knew?
Yeah.
Like, so
But to
I guess
bring
that's
Jimmy-
cool to some people, but that's not what our job is designed to do, to reflect the community. Is to not only just talk about things that are local, but what are local people talking about? We live here, and what's interesting. And sometimes it's a challenge, and some days it isn't. But today for you, it's just funny.
It's just when
it
today just is that day that's like, oh.
But that's the other thing is because, you say, Ukraine, Will Smith, all this stuff is still of interest. But for us, we get tired of it. And the average person doesn't think that way. Like, for example, we may think, oh, yeah, okay, well, we're going to play Beat the Bank. We say it like that, and listeners are like, oh, my God, Beat the Bank's coming
Yeah.
up. So, the interest level of listeners compared to what we do every day for 3-4 hours. Now, I'm not on the air for 4 hours, but, as I said, I get in here about 4:30, 4:45. You're in here by 5. So the show is being put together, and then we talk about it after, and then we do the podcast about it. So we live with it for hours. A listener may pop in for 30 minutes, and we appreciate every minute that the listeners spend with us. So we've got to make sure that when they're done, that they're better informed and entertained than when they got there. That's what we have to do every day and live in the community and reflect it.
Well, and I know it became that even during the pandemic.
Yeah,
You and
oh
I,
my gosh.
it was every day, but there was always something. And I remember speaking with, at the time, Director of Education, Sean Monteith. There was a time there where we were having him on every week.
Yep.
And you and I both had several conversations. Okay, has this run its course? Should we maybe space it out more? And even he was asking, I don't know if I need to come on every week. I don't know. But it was that to us, because we were so immersed in it, and even him having to deal with everything that was going on with kids going back to school, he questioned the relevance of it. But everyone else was just almost like a sponge. They just wanted more. No, tell us more. Tell us
Yeah.
more. I don't care if I've heard it 3 times. Tell me again. I just want to know. I want that reassurance. So yeah, when you're in it, you start to think, oh, is this really even? Why are we talking about this again? But you're right. Everyone outside of the building. No, I realize it's different. It's like, no, I want to hear more about that.
I don't know.
It's finding that balance and remembering.
I don't know how you did it working from home.
What?
I'll tell you.
Oh, yes.
Because,
Sorry, what are we talking about?
one of my favorite radio consultant chats was at a radio breakfast. It was part of a overall sort of seminar weekend. I don't know if it was the CAB, the Canadian Association, something like that, of which I was not a guest speaker, never been invited to. But we got talking about things.
Yeah.
And he was sort of railing against that notion of services, right? That you would go out and you would buy services that would send you show prep and stuff to talk about. And he said, inherently it isn't wrong. He said, but if every radio station always subscribed to the same one, every radio station would sound like every other radio station stuff you talk about. And so he said, what he likes to tell people, and I've never forgotten this, is before you go on the air, you should bring 3 things with you. Something you saw, something you read, and something you heard. So he said, you may not use all of it, but if you brought in 3 and I brought in 3, there's 6 things that we could talk about. And something you heard may be standing in a Tim Hortons line, overhearing 2 people talk about something going on in town or of interest to them that you think, isn't that interesting? I was listening to I overheard somebody make this comment, and I'm interested and it just spirals, right? Something you saw if it was here in Belleville, Trenton, Quinte West, Campbellford, where you're from.
Driving through Sterling
401.
this morning.
Right. Exactly. When you talked about Gailey, something you see, other people see it. They're like, yeah, I saw that. Hey, did somebody see that new sign, that new yeah, I saw it and I won. So you begin to, we talk about reflecting in the community. And if all you ever do is go online and read headlines off your favorite sites, you miss so much of what's relevant. So when I say you were forced to stay home, you couldn't go out and immerse yourself in things you heard because you only listen to your kids at that point. So that's when I say I don't know how you could have had so much interest that you had at home, not being immersed in that which we have all the time.
Well, in that
would have been hard.
In that example with the pandemic, especially in its early stages, it was almost like a firsthand account, though. So that wasn't too hard. But as time went on, yes, it did get more difficult because I wasn't in the outside world. I was in my bubble.
Yeah.
For 4 or 5 months.
And you reflected what it was like in there because that was the same frustration everybody else had.
Yes, and that's what I mean. At first, it was kind of like I was living what everybody else was. So it was relevant. But yeah, it did. And that's kind of why at the end there, and I've made it quite clear how much I wanted to get back. Yeah. How much better it is being at work than, and it's funny because I always thought it would be so great to be a stay-at-home mom. And I commend so many people who choose to be a stay-at-home parent because it's not easy. And I found that out.
Yeah.
What I thought I would really embrace and enjoy was not, I'm not built for that.
Part of the other job, and it's a small part, although it plays a big important part, I think, is what we do in the community, either, in our spare time with charities and the like. But this weekend, Home and Lifestyle Show is going on. And so you and I are going to be at the booth broadcasting for the first time together outside at an event for like 2.5 years.
Yeah,
we haven't done
I was trying to think. It was the Home and Lifestyle Show that we were last at, wasn't it? Have we done?
I'm pretty sure it would
another, because I
been,
know we've done McHappy Day, but that was in a drive-through and we weren't broadcasting. We were volunteering our time, but even that
we
was
did Tim
last year.
Smile Cookies. We got pictures up from that. That was just in the fall.
That was in the fall, but you're right. The Quinte Home and Lifestyle Show. It's funny you bring that up because I've thought the same thing. For the first time in quite a long time, we're going to be in an event.
We're going to
with
go
lots of people.
And we're going to talk to people again like we take for granted, like it's our day job, and it is. But we would take for granted.
This is part of my job too. And I'm excited for it.
We haven't done this in so long that, I'm looking forward to it. I hope we're good at it. We don't care if we're good at it. Really?
You know what I'm picturing?
We can be like a puppy.
I'm picturing Mark. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mark Philman is going to be off the leash and running around and going up to people. Hi! So good to see you.
Let's be friends again.
And then I'm going to follow and be like, Mark, come on. Mark.
No. You have to follow around going, he's friendly. He's friendly.
Is that what I need to do?
Like to worry about the dog running down the driveway.
It's okay. He's friendly. He hasn't been out for 2 years. He's very excited.
He's very... Just pet him and send him back. Yeah. He's fine. He's fine. He's masked. He's okay.
Just keep walking.
He's
just
boosted.
Keep walking.
He's good.
He has all his shots. He's good.
So come out to the Home and Lifestyle Show between noon and 4 on Friday at your peril.
And you will see very excited morning show hosts.
But so it's so interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that we should probably talk about this on the podcast. Just that notion of when we put it together and what do you think? Do we do this? And what do you think? Where do we put it?
Exactly.
That's a big part of it.
When do we do it? When do we talk about it?
It's more effective after 8 or before 7 or when should we talk about that? It may not seem like it,
but there is thought put into the morning
Occasionally
show.
We just throw it up in whatever order we pick it up. That's when we do it.
More often than not, there is quite a bit of planning. Today was just one of those days. And literally, I think it was maybe 20 after 6 before we really had a plan for this morning. It's like, okay, can we please just focus and talk about what? Because thankfully, I don't feel it happens very often. But thank you for carrying us this morning because it was tough. I shouldn't say that. You carry most mornings. But this morning, I just wasn't biting on anything. There wasn't anything grabbing me this morning. So thank you.
Well, that's part of the good thing. Paul McCartney wrote some songs. John Lennon wrote some songs, right? They take credit for both. But one of the stories we had, we talked about how the school buses, why on a perfect day would half a dozen buses be canceled?
And people have asked that.
And we're running into a driver shortage, or they have enough bus drivers. Well, one gets COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so that route, they're done for the week.
Now
And
we don't have a driver.
things like that. So we talked about this morning about how if you can get bus drivers, because they posted a story, and I think that's interesting.
Well, and it
Parents
was on
need to know
TV.
why. Yeah.
It caught me last night. I'm making dinner, and all of a sudden I heard Triboard. I'm like, what? What's going on? And they were looking for bus drivers.
But then Gord from Triboard texted in and said, thanks, we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, okay, that was something important then. We thought it was important, but you don't always know when you're done.
It was interesting
Yeah.
because we have been asked, why are the buses canceled when the sun's shining? That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So again,
And that's why.
it's not going to be on entertainment tonight, but that's important to families around here. So, anyway, that's how we put the show together. The podcast, we just kind of ramble for about 15 minutes and
Is that what
40
we're up to?
seconds, give
Wow,
or take.
see?
That's what it's
We
that's
can
what it's like.
talk.
But tomorrow's theme and songs for Throwback Thursday for Burger Revolution is really good. Is it as good as the songs we're not playing?
You'll have to listen to us on air because we can't,
Yeah.
unfortunately, play the clips on our podcast. But if you
Yeah.
want to hear the songs, we didn't use, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
The list of songs we didn't use. Wow.
Wow. And
can tune in tomorrow.
the entire portion of Charity's unprofessionalism that came to light today is based on tomorrow's Galaxy of Games with our text-to-speech
Oh
song,
my gosh.
because it's pretty darn funny. So we'll play that with Galaxy of Games.
I'm very interested to see
If anybody gets it?
if anybody gets it.
Oh, come on.
Because the lyrics are so... when you hear the song, they make perfect sense. But when they're spoken with a British accent, it's like, wow.
Yep. And that's the whole point.
This is a song. This is
is
an
the point.
award-winning song.
Yeah.
Okay, how come we don't have award-winning songs?
7:15 tomorrow. So many I wish I'd written. How come I didn't write that song? That's coming up tomorrow morning. And
Wow.
tomorrow would be, I got to look it up, the par 3 contest at the Masters. We'll see if that's actually going on. I don't think it is.
And you said tonight is the
Champions
champions
dinner.
dinner. So we will know tomorrow for sure what's on the menu because we still don't know at this point.
Hideki Matsuyama hasn't
He hasn't
released
given
it.
any indication.
No.
And I love this. I didn't know this until you told me. That's one of the other things I've learned from you in the last few years. That he was last year's champion, so
Right.
he gets to choose what everybody
He
eats
chooses
tonight.
the menu. Yep.
I
And
didn't
then
know
he
that.
delivers a speech and he's terrified. Not simply because, as I mentioned on the podcast yesterday, English is not his first language
Mm-hmm.
or one that he claims that he's much adept at. But you look around the room and look who's in that room.
Look who's sitting
And
in
he
front
said
of you.
so many of his
It's amazing.
heroes growing up
Oh, yeah.
are in the room and are welcoming him into the club. And there's that little boy in all of us in that says, don't lose that. Like, always
Oh.
be amazed. That's just great. When you become jaded to it, then
Who would be the oldest one in the room?
who would be? Oh, well, it
Who
depends
would
who's
be in the
there.
audience? Because, of course, Tiger.
Jack Nicklaus.
Jack
would be
Nicklaus,
there. He's
okay.
probably going to be the oldest one there.
Yeah.
Followed by probably, Gary Player. How old's Gary Player? And Tom Watson. So those are the old guys. I mean, Arnold's passed away.
And anybody who has won can
the
go to
master
this.
can come back. I don't
go to
know.
this
Phil's
meal.
not going to play, but I don't know if he'll be there for dinner tonight or not. Because you don't have to play.
No,
like
but
Jack
that's what I
and
mean.
Tom don't play
Anyone
anymore.
who has won
The
can come
Masters.
to this.
Yep, they're
can
a
come to
champion.
this dinner.
You come to the-
as you said, they don't have to necessarily be playing in it.
That's right.
But
Yep.
if you have a jacket, you can
Yep.
come to this dinner.
You come. And they close the doors, they lock the doors, and it's not to be spoken of. Sometimes it is when things, who gets teasing who, stories will come out, but it's a club. And the guys have a great time. And my favorite was one year Tiger won, and it was cheeseburgers and fries
I
and
was going to say
milkshakes.
one was hamburgers or something. Yeah.
Something like that. Like in
So that's why I'm
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
curious to know what's on the
Mike
menu
Weir
tonight.
had caribou from Canada on the menu. So we'll see if it has a Japanese flair for Hideki or what it is.
I would think there'd be
Interesting.
something. He would have to include something.
You would hope.
You don't
Yeah.
want to be presumptuous. You don't want to
Exactly.
be stereotypical.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I would think he would incorporate something
And
into
if you
his
if you
menu.
like sushi, for example, I'm sure you would hope that there's going to be something on it. But normally it's released ahead of time, so you
Yeah.
know. And then there's always other options if you don't like what they're going to have, or if you've got
Allergies
dietary
or- yeah.
concerns. Yeah, then you can have a
But I
cheeseburger and
find,
fries.
I find that very cool that they do that.
It's a neat thing. So we'll have more about that tomorrow morning. It's the American Charity Coffee Podcast. So organized in Belleville, Ontario. You'll find us on Spotify,
Tomorrow
Amazon
will
Music.
be.
Yeah, we already know that. We already told you.
Exactly.
Download it, subscribe to it so you get it uploaded by 11 o'clock in the morning. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on 95.5 Hits FM. Have a great Tuesday.